Like, really, the value is in the last 20% of revenue growth. You don't get the value until you finish the deal. If you don't finish the deal because you're spread thin over all these other deals, it's like you've wasted all this time buying these parks because you got to finish the deal. You know, there's 3 or 4 vacant spots in the park. What's going to take to fill those up and, get the max value of the park? And then guess what? If something does happen to me, my wife will be able to easily sell these parks. But if they're still like under construction and all these things are happening, it's time to get them right to where you're selling them for easy to manage parks. I feel like I go on tangents when you're asking me a question, and I'm just like, I don't even know what the question was you asked, but I'm just like getting into it.
I love it. I don't mind bringing us back, and I don't mind seeing where you go with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Both are great. People will let us know down in the comments what, maybe
Love
I
to hear it.
forgot to ask or what they'd like to hear more from you. So let us know. Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. For today's conversation, I'm going to be sitting down with my buddy Glenn Yaney from Florida. We got to meet as professionals in this infinite banking space, and I've been learning more about his personal journey, more about his professional journey. He was kind enough to say yes to sitting down and recording his origin story with infinite banking. So I hope that you enjoy. All right, Glenn, very happy to be talking with you again. You were kind enough to recently have me on your show, and your contact information, of course, will be below in the show notes of this video because I want people to know more about you. Obviously, we're going to have a conversation about your origin story, but how to be able to reach out to you. I enjoyed that conversation that I had with you. Thanks for being here today so that I can share your story with folks so they can hear about your trajectory. And I'll go ahead and tell everybody that is watching, Glenn has said yes to the roundtable. So you can look for an upcoming episode there with him. I'm excited about that as well. But how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on the show.
Absolutely. So if you would take me and give me a bit of a snapshot, at least of who you are, right? I mean, we're going to get to your financial trajectory, of course, but tell the folks, and Glenn from Florida, sunny Florida, hopefully today, right?
Yeah, it's a little rainy today, but we like to have a little bit of rain in the winter. That's how it cools down, and we get a taste of the winter compared to what everybody else is experiencing throughout the whole thing. And really, in Florida, uh, you get about 2 or 3 days of cold, and then it goes back to being hot again. So excited for the cooler weather, and it's been cold. We had the Lightning hockey game outside in 41-degree weather, so it was pretty perfect weather for an outdoor hockey game, which is like only one for the year. So, anyways, yeah. So I've been born and raised in Tampa, and my mom worked at a bank, and she would always talk about her customers that were you know business owners making money, and then like the loans that she was writing, and really it like really ingrained the conversation about finances. So like even today, I'm completely open book about my own finances. I feel like it's helpful to others to hear that, and then we can see how to measure. So like for me, when I started, I was working at Red Lobster, my financial journey. I worked at Red Lobster, and I had my GM of the restaurant was, he said, if you just put $50 a paycheck in now, it'll be a lot easier. It said it'll compound over time. And so I started my 401k right away, and I had no idea. And I literally, the back to the story of like knowing who your mentors are. When you have no money, it's hard to figure out who the mentors are. Everybody has more money than you. It's hard to figure out who to follow. So the first person, this guy told me he had a paid off house. He's a GM of a Red Lobster where I was working. And he had a very good financially structured life, is what I would say. But I started following his playbook, and that's what happened. And I started putting money away. And before you know it, I'm trying to figure out how to become a real estate agent because I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and read Dave Ramsey, and just trying to figure out, really just stumbling through this financial uh, journey that I had. So what ended up happening is I got I had to save $50 every Monday. I would have $50 going into the bank account. So now this is the beginning of having two goals. I have a 401k goal, and now I have a savings goal to get a real estate license. So I had to save $1,000. So now I'm starting to be, I already don't have a lot of money as it is. So I have we'll just say $100 being split into two every week. The extra savings. So 50 towards 401k, 50 towards the uh, the real estate license. So I ended up getting my real estate license, and I actually ended up getting recruited by a big institution that does single family home rentals. I went from making $1,500 uh, a month to $15,000 a month, and it was like game changing. I literally thought that I always felt like the other shoe was going to drop. I was going to lose that job. But what I did is I started paying off debt, and I had a car payment, my 23.9 interest rate car payment that I had. And long story short, uh, trying to follow the conventional financial advice. Now my 401k contributions goes to maxing out the 401k contributions. And really, I was still always in fear of losing my job. But what my dollars said is just to defer and and we're just deferring towards 65 years old. And I started meeting people in real estate that were investing in themselves and only buying real estate. And you'd ask them, how much stock do you have, or how many other assets do you have outside of real estate and cash? And all of them would say, I don't have any. Like there was like, so I started like taking little notes. And then at that time, I thought that the conventional advice was right. You have to put your money in a 401k. And then around 5 years into, I would say 5 to 7 years. Actually, what happened is I left that real estate job with the cushy pay to go be a normal real estate agent, and I had about $30,000 cash in my bank account. And the experience that I had from that was uh, fear, because $30,000, no income, and really trying to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills, and my 30,000 is going to 25,000, is going to 20,000. And as I'm trying to scale up this real estate sales business, I would wake up with a blanket of like, not, it might have been depression, but it was like, just like this uneasy feeling that this is ending soon and this is not a sustainable plan. And what I did is I ended up having to go back to my old job because I did not have any cash flow and I didn't have enough reserves, is really what happened. So it was just a lesson. But what I did is I decided that I was just going to keep putting more money in my 401k. Like I didn't learn my lesson that I needed liquidity in my life. And I could tell you during this time, I was introduced to infinite banking concept. But I think what happened was I was looking at the life insurance, or the cash value, as an investment vehicle. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to look at this as a savings vehicle for opportunities for the future. And I looked at it and I was like, there's no way I'll do that. I could do this. And I don't even think it was properly structured. I think it was like breaking even around year 12 and stuff like that. So it was just nothing that I wanted to do anything with it. But I always would go back to these videos of like people talking about infinite banking, and all the things that they talk about in these videos were like very attractive: liquidity, cash flow, building out your cash flow system and stuff like that. It's just that I kept getting wrapped up on the return of the actual policy itself. And I think that's the real reason why I didn't start it earlier.
Can I
So,
jump in with a question? But
sure.
before we go too deep on IBC, I actually have a few. I'd hate to interrupt your flow, but I'm
Yeah.
curious about some things. All right. So in this picture of Red Lobster, real estate job, etc., in this trajectory, when did you read Rich Dad Poor Dad,
It was about
Dave Ramsey stuff, and And was it that
2012.
GM? And was it that GM or?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I got the book from somebody that wasn't interested in finances at all, but I might have read Dave Ramsey, Total Money Makeover and Rich Dad Poor Dad about the same time. It was about 2012.
Those are
And
an
then,
interesting couple of books to read around the same time because they've got some pretty, distinguished views that are different, those two authors. Interesting. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
what I do love about those books, though, I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad, obviously, we're focusing on cash flow. The house is not an asset; it's a liability. That conversation was like a first change of thought. But with Dave Ramsey, the thing I love about Dave Ramsey is he's creating that savings muscle. Like that, I mean, if you can't save money, you can't really do any, like all the stuff we're talking about, infinite banking, paying off debt, buying cash flow assets. If you can't save capital, you're never going to get there. And that's what it really taught me is when I read the Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover. And that's why I've seen so many people become successful after reading Dave Ramsey's book is because they creates the muscle and then we start to grow from there. We grow from the launching pad of like, okay, I got my finances kind of in order. Let's figure out how to create cash flow.
Okay. So I can appreciate everything you said about those guys and
Yeah.
and what that was like for you. Why did you even pick up, Rich Dad Poor Dad from this person that, isn't maybe money minded or whatever? Like, I guess what I'm saying is like after school when we have to read, not everybody really, voluntarily chooses to pick up a book and to read it. It's like, were you always a reader or no, that was a first time in anything
Yeah.
personal finance wise, or I'm curious.
Yeah. So I can tell you, I went to college for 2 years and didn't get one college credit while I was there. So my reading was never a big thing for me, but I've learned through it wasn't that I didn't like reading, I just wasn't interested in what I was reading in. And when I started finding things I was interested in, I loved reading, is what happened. So Rich Dad Poor Dad and Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover. I believe I read Total Money Makeover because I had a this car payment that I had a 0% truck payment at $400 a month, and then I traded my truck in to get a Honda Civic, and it was a 23.9 interest rate on a $400 payment still. So what that looks like on paper is $50 goes to principal and 350 goes to interest. And I didn't know that when I signed the papers. I just thought I need to get a cheaper, more affordable car, which is easier to manage as a Honda Civic. And I ended up opening up cash flow of about $200. So that was the beginning of me focusing on cash flow. But um, I learned about interest rates at that time. I figured out how to calculate interest rates with a 23.9 interest rate car payment.
Strong motivation, right? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the natural tendency is to think, well, what can I afford per month? And we focus on the payment. But yeah, when you understand or look under the hood, so to
Yeah.
speak, all right, pun intended there, when you look under the hood
Yeah.
on an amortization scale for the first time, it's eye-opening for sure. All right. Another question that I had was, well, no, I think before my next question, I think you pointed out something really interesting for folks who reflect on, or maybe they're young enough that they're having those first conversations with whoever it is in their life. Maybe it's their manager or whatever
Yeah.
who's talking to them about something, okay? Something financial, and maybe they're listening. Who you listen to really, really matters. But
Yeah.
of course, maybe even before that, are you even listening at all, right? Because I don't know, at least if you're listening, you could hear bad advice or good advice, sure. But if your ears are stopped up, you're not going to make any progress whatsoever, right? That whole idea of somebody's first mentor, who are you lending your ear to? I just think it's very, very, very strong. My next question, though, is why real estate? Well, were you still working at Red Lobster when you had the idea of doing something in real estate, and that was the next move?
So I got my insurance license when in 2012, and the guy, I had I guess an insurance I guess mentor, and he told that I think that was actually what triggered me to become financially educated. He said you need to start reading books about finances. So then I was reading about all kinds of stuff, and then I started learning about Obamacare and whatever the Healthcare Reform Act, and I didn't really think about IBC. I was nowhere near the conversation of IBC. I was looking to sell either life insurance or health insurance. And I learned that the health insurance business was about to get pummeled through the Healthcare Reform Act because it goes straight to the government for their policies now. And I understand that there's some guys that I know that sell life insurance or health insurance now that do very well. But at the time, I was like, this sounds like they're gonna push out the health insurance agent. So I started reading books, and I knew that 2012 the market was and understanding that it cratered, from 2008 2012. And I said, well, they say buy low, sell high, so I might as well get in while it's low to grow with this real estate, and because I don't see how it could be any cheaper. I just couldn't figure out how to buy it at that time, and so that's why I got into real estate. That was really the answer.
Okay, interesting. So you're reading stuff, you're being introduced to new people in your life. Tell me more about anything that sticks out to you from your recollection, because folks are going to experience this in life too, the ups and downs. One of your ups was $1,500 a month or a month to
Month.
15,000
Yeah.
a month. What was great about that? What maybe hard lessons did you learn? How do you reflect on it?
Yeah, so I really focused on just living like I still worked at Red Lobster. So I really saved every penny I possibly could. And I mean, I guess my lifestyle did inflate a little bit. I was able to move out of my parents' house and stuff like that. But
Sure.
at the same time, I try to keep my expenses low, very low debt, and really just try to figure out the next move. I was always trying to figure out, I was putting my money in the stock market, trying to day trade at times. Then I bought some distressed debt, which was credit card debt that was like 5, 6 years old. I bought it for 17,000 and sold it for 7,000. So lost 10 grand doing that. I've tried to buy stocks that were cheap and I bought them cheap. I just didn't have the understanding of holding on or the nerves to hold on. And I've learned that with stocks, it's so hard to keep your emotions down, so it's so easy to trade out or get, I was buying stock that was super cheap and it was go up and then I would sell it too early. I would just get rid of it because I'm like, I don't want to lose this money. So it turned into where it's like all these, like if you look at Apple, if it's gotten cut in half like 10 times. The stock has gone down 50% over the course of its being a stock. So it's like, do you hold on to Apple that whole time or do you have the nerves to do that? And I would say most people don't have the nerves to do that. Like individually own a stock, it drops by 50% and you don't know if it's going to go to zero. That's the thought. It's not like, oh, I'm buying the dip. It's like, oh, it's down 50%. Is it going to go down another 50% after that? With real estate, it's a tangible thing and you're buying it, you're trying to find cash flow. It's the most basic business that you can buy. It's just, you're just managing expenses and your revenue. Those are the two things. And when you get into real estate, you're pretty much running a business. The problem with real estate is that it's a square box and you can't get the revenue any bigger than the box is. So with businesses, you're able to uh, grow the revenue. The more money you put into marketing and advertising or infrastructure with employees and stuff like that, you can grow the revenue. But with real estate, you have this box and you have to buy another box to grow your revenue. So, anyways, there's a tangent just went down.
No, it's good. I appreciate the the variety of things that you've done to
Yeah.
learn about money, try and use money that I mean, day trading, stocks, real estate,
Yeah.
um, debt, buying debt. Terribly interesting to me. Paying off your own debt, but you were a saver as well. I wrote down one more question. Um, so just because you did just talk about all those things, how do you reflect now on diversification? Knowing what you know today so far, how do you reflect on diversification now as a practice?
Yeah. So I think when somebody comes to me and they say, they have 10,000 or $50,000 to invest, if it's your only 10 to $50,000 you have, I would say that the main goal is to increase your income. So how do we get it to where you have $200,000 to invest? Or how do you like, I talk to business owners regularly and like, I said, if you took $50,000 and put it into your business, how much more income do you think you would make? Like whether you have to be strategic, of course, but like you're putting into marketing, hiring new people, hiring a salesperson, like maybe having the bandwidth to hire a salesperson to be able to have the build up because they might not sell anything for 3 to 6 months, but you have to allow them to grow their business as well, as in meeting people, grow the relationships. So is that $50,000? It's better used on investing in yourself over trying to diversify and put it into something else that's going to pay you 10% or 12% and with hopefully some upside. I mean, I would say when you get to that investment, I believe your income has to be a lot higher. So that turns into if you're making, 500 to $1 million a year, I would say that that's when it starts to become maybe I should start buying this passive income that we're talking about. But I really believe focusing on your personal income and growing the skills to grow. Just an example, I have a friend. He was making about $300,000 to $500,000 a year. He lost his job. To me, I'd be freaked out. I don't know what I'm gonna do. How am I gonna replace a $300,000 to $500,000 year income? He found a job within 3 to 4 months, and he's making $500,000 a year again. So I believe that that person has a skill that I don't have because if I'm like too I don't have like the brains to do it. I have to invest in real estate and the slow and steady thing to grow my income up. But this person has an earning and he has a skill that he's learned and taught himself through education that he's able to earn that 500,000 and he invests heavily into real estate, but at the same time he's figured out a way to actually get his earned income up to 500,000.
Okay, I love that. And all right, so you're making me think about conversations I've had with my boys recently,
Yeah.
Glenn, my 10-year-old, 12-year-old boys, okay, who have, because they're big enough, done work around the house. They've done work around our property. They've worked with their papa on job sites who does construction. They've done different things to earn income, right? And
Yeah.
it's my belief, and scripture says in the Bible that everybody has their gifts. I think, your buddy, he's got a gift, right? And it's
Yep.
probably a gift that he's honed in on, worked on, educated himself on, practiced, rehearsed,
Yep.
put it to work to perfect it, right? Or to at least improve it. That's one way to earn money. And what I'm trying to plant in my boys, but also show them the second way of earning money, plant in their minds is that's a honorable, that's a worthy thing to do to get great at what you do. If you're
Yep.
going to do something, do it well, right? So I'm a big believer in pouring into yourself, personal growth and development, hone your skills. But Nelson, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and that's okay. I'm going
Yep.
to talk to you about your infinite banking journey. Nelson says that, well, everybody in business should be in a second business, which is the financing of that business. So when I say business, I mean a career person. If there's a career person out there, well, that's their business. Their business is being that professional in their field. Great. Now, if it is an actual self-employed business or a small business or whatever, okay, that's what I mean. Is there's your earned income. But the second way to earn income is to have money at work. And when you
Yep.
can do both, when you
Yep.
can wrap your mind around doing both, it can be very, very good. So I'll tell you before my next question, my one thing, because I always try to plant this seed early, Glenn, I didn't do this even well once I started infinite banking. Keeping enough reserve capital, like you said something about, well, hey, if somebody's only got 50,000 or whatever that number is for them, unless that number is big enough to be an opportunity fund, it probably just needs to remain an emergency fund, in my opinion, now, where I'm
Yeah.
at now. I believe that everybody should be operating from whatever level they determine. Now, I'm not going to tell them what that number should be, but relative to their financial footprint, if the number's not big enough to be considered an opportunity fund of, hey, should I be spending some of this money to improve my skills, improve my abilities, go to events, get into networks, whatever, or should this be adding something to my portfolio that I have as an investor? If it's not at that level, perhaps it just needs to be an emergency fund. Me, I was so honed in on getting out of consumer debt when I started infinite banking, had to pay, student loans, car note, credit cards, those types of things that, I was max loaning. Now I actually encourage my clients, don't be making max loans. Um, in general, that's my suggestion. I don't tell people what to do, but again, operating from some level that you choose of capital, base capital, emergency capital, your war chest, I think is a stronger position because life does have its ups and its downs. And if you're so aggressively doing any one thing that you deplete that reserve capital, you could run into even more problems. Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah. Also, I would tell you that, I mean, I've raised a lot of capital. Currently to date, in my business, I've raised over $15 million in real estate. So I can tell you the guy with the biggest check writing ability, right, makes the rules. So it turns into if there's a guy that's writing me a check for 200,000, I'm gonna, there's gonna be more say to what compared to maybe the guy with a $50,000 check. I have other guys that have given me a couple $1 million. That guy has full access to me, and I'm able to, uh, you know, he's the first person I call when it comes to deals. So it's like, if I have a deal, it's like, so the more capital you have, the more, and I have other guys that they, um, it's like the more, it's like these guys, what I have found is the guys with the most money uh, they have high incomes, but at the same time, it's pretty easy to work with them. And the reason why they make it easy is because they want you to keep calling them for deals. And I think I kind of went off on a tangent on that, but the more capital you have, the better deals you'll get. If you have $10,000, you just have to invest in yourself. If you have $1 million, just an example, this is the one I always talk about. There was a mobile home park that I saw. It was a 16 unit park. It was $400,000, which is very cheap. I mean, you can't find them like that today. And this is on a busy corner in Wesley Chapel, which is right outside of Tampa. And I knew it was a good deal, but I did not have the $100,000. I had all my money tied up in a 401k. And what I did is I started calling people with capital. And I said, hey, uh, this guy, he's willing to sell or finance it. All you need is $100,000. And then these guys were, I had to convince people, and nobody wanted to do it. Later down the road, I can tell you that park's worth $1.5 million. And all it took was $100,000 at that time. And it would have been a game changer for me if I would have had to have the money not tied up in a 401k. And how much was the tax penalty or the the actual early withdrawal penalty compared to financial freedom is what I kind of came to conclusion. I was like, I missed out on this deal because I'm worried about paying taxes on this money. But long story short, um, I learned that if I'm always taking my money and trying to chase yield all the time, I'm going to actually lose out on the bigger deals. So it's like I got to be patient with capital. It's got to season. There's a deal once a year, I believe everybody comes across once a year that is a game changer. We just have to be patient enough to find those deals. If you find I believe everybody comes across one amazing deal for themselves. If they had the capital, they would be able to take advantage of it. And that's really what I'm trying to get across to certain people, especially like the younger guys that always feel like they have to like if they have $5,000 in their pocket, they have to invest it into something. It's like, okay, let's pump the brakes, let's create liquidity, let's protect the downside, and then when those opportunities show up, they're so good that you can't turn them down.
Well, I don't think you went on a tangent at all. I mean, it's one of Nelson's human problems that he addresses at length in the book, right? Which is the golden rule. He who
Yeah.
has the gold makes the
Yep.
rules. And, something else from the book, which I've experienced in my life and that you just very much described, and you're making me reflect on opportunities that I've experienced in the past. Some went well, some didn't,
Yeah.
which is I also believe, Glenn, that people can go out and once a year, whatever the time, they can find something.
Yep.
You found one. I found opportunity because I was going out and proactively looking, and I actually even mean in real estate as well. I've gone out and I've found deals and made things happen, and it was good for everybody involved. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great learning experience. I really appreciate that time that I spent doing that in my life, making some real estate business happen. And I've also experienced what Nelson said in the Becoming Your Own Banker book when he said, when you're well capitalized, opportunities will hunt you.
Yep.
So I think it's great and it's valuable and it's good for somebody to learn the skill of going out and looking for opportunities. I think it's a very valuable skill
Yep.
and they will show up, right? Because you're out looking for them. If you're paying attention for something, you're gonna find it. Okay. If if you're well capitalized, though, he says the reverse begins to happen, that the opportunities hunt you down there. They are attracted. And I found that to be true as well. But I'm telling you, you made me think of, a real estate deal that didn't go the way that I wanted it to as well. I saw the opportunity, didn't make it happen, and I reflect back on that. Hopefully not too much to where it's negative, but enough to where I make sure to learn the lesson and not let that same instance repeat itself. You know what I'm saying there?
I was listening to I listened to this AI Charlie Munger on YouTube, and I listened to it to go to sleep. It's really good. Uh, my friends bash me for it, but I can tell you, if you look up AI Charlie Munger, they have like these lessons. I think it's reading Charlie Munger books in AI. And so, long story short, he talks about Warren Buffett, and they said that Warren Buffett, he has 60 years of, or even longer, really, because he started when he was 11 years old and he's over 90 now. He's had all this time of vigorously reading books, looking at the I don't K1s or whatever the stocks are, and he reads about 500 pages a day, and that is a skill nobody can beat. It's impossible. Like you have to start when you're 11 and you got to be 90 years old. And he's done that his whole life. So like if you think about the best investor in the world, Warren Buffett, he is somebody that's vigorously learning constantly, even today. And I believe that's also why he's was able to get to 90 years old. He's constantly learning, reading books, keeping your brain sharp. He's like, so it was one of those things where I was listening to it this morning and I'm just thinking, every mistake you make is a stepping stool to uh, knowing what not to do next time. And in my opinion, that's how I got to IBC, Infinite Banking Concept, is literally making the mistakes, having these sleepless nights, figuring out what I need to do differently going forward, and really through experience, I that's how I arrived at a bunch of failed refinances. I had two failed refinances that happened. One, I would say one part of that failed refinance was having low capital reserves. As a real estate guy, you're a deal junkie. You just go out, just keep, you see deals all the time. I have five right now in front of me. I have one under contract, and I have another one at 2 o'clock that I'm going to be talking to the seller. And there's always deals to be done, but the problem is that we need to create some kind of liquid reserve so that the banks are willing to lend us on those first liens. I mean, I know that for some people we're trying to remove the banking system, but for me, the amount of properties I want to have is going to have, I mean, I have over $20 million of debt right now in my name and thankfully cash flowing. So that's with those reserves, and that goes back to reserves. Like you think when I was making 150,000 a year at American Homes for Rent, I was my reserves really only had to be like 20 to 30,000. But now my reserves needs to be way more than that. Like it has to be like in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to be really properly insulated. If you think about property taxes alone, I pay $200,000 in property taxes. So, I mean, a lot of these partnerships are siloed money that I can't get access to. Another learning lesson I've had recently is when the money is siloed, like a 401k, an IRA, an HSA, when we start siloing this money, it creates friction points of your capital. But if you have it all in one pool of money, it gives you more access and liquidity to be more available to take action. So say if I was saving $200,000 of taxes in one account, would I be able to make more decisions? Even if it was ear tagged for taxes, I can make a short-term decision that this doesn't have to be paid till November. Maybe I'll go do this real quick and then be able to get the money back in a short period. Like, and then really that's only for taxes. Now my CapEx budget, uh my reserve fund, my debt payment reserve fund. Like there's so many areas that needs to be stored somewhere. And why wouldn't I get the benefit of having a properly structured whole life insurance policy that benefits me and my family to really capitalize on that and also has a little bit of growth to it with all the insurance protections, you know?
No, absolutely. So yes, so I need to get your exposure story then to infinite banking, but I'll say this while we're here. The versatility that you can get from a whole life policy to check all the boxes that you just enumerated and more is
Yeah.
incomparable to anything else. What can I offset, whatever the number is? You said 20 million, so I'll just use it. What can I offset that 20 million with? Whole life insurance. You know, worst case scenario, you and I graduate today, death benefit, income tax free to our families, and we can set what that number needs to be or what we want it to be,
Yeah.
right? Whole life insurance checks that box. Does it check that box of can I pivot? Can I make a change? I don't have that property tax due till then. Could I decide because I've warehoused my wealth in these system of policies to go out and do X, Y, and Z before that timeline? Yes, I can because who's in control? Who has the access? You know, no permission needed, no onerous
Yeah.
paperwork, no taxes to account for. We got tax-free access to that capital, and you know, not to mention that it's you know the safest place against even other inflation, litigation,
Yep.
other influences
Yep.
that affect all of us. Whole life insurance checks all those boxes. All right, so we're saying that. So let's actually get, you know, anything that you would reflect back on then, Glenn, when you have all this background that you do, somehow you learned about infinite banking. Paint that picture for us.
So the question is that how did I learn about infinite banking?
Yes,
So
sir.
really, I would say whenever I really became interested in infinite banking, because I was looking into it in 2012. I don't know if I was talking to the right person. I don't think they were definitely not infinite banking practitioner. And but what I could tell you is that it was around 2000 to 2022 when I'm going through this refinance. Uh, you know, you're trying to inflate like your net worth matters when you're getting loans from banks for commercial loans. They want to see that your net you can only have you have to show and then you have to prove it as well. So I have to show that you're always waiting and there's the due diligence and all of the things that happen when you're refinancing these larger mortgages are very expensive. So you want to make sure that you're underwritable, you know, so like having a strong reserve and you know, if you're like a deal junkie like me, it's like there's constantly a deal that shows up. So I had to create a system that creates rules that, where I have to create the rule as a bank. Like I have to become my own banker. So I had to create a reserve amount that I need to have at all times because my sleep is affected when I don't have as much reserve as I need. Um, my income cut in half in 2025 because we doubled in size our portfolio. This is after I started the infinite banking concept. So let me just go into the actual how I discovered, and then I'll tell you how I could still operate my infinite banking with even my income cut in half. But really, it came down to is that I needed to show a better balance sheet. I have all these partnerships. I have a business that if I were to die, my family probably wouldn't get a lot out of it, even though on paper it looks really good. It turns into where my wife would have had to fight with business partners, trying to figure out valuations of what my business is worth, what my real estate's worth. Then also I'm the operator of my real estate, so I have to make sure that there's somebody to operate the business because it's definitely not going to be my wife. So we got to figure out how to get those things in place, have a liquid buffer to make sure that every, the sleepless nights, the saving of capital, me paying off my 23.9 interest rate Honda Civic wasn't for nothing. We're trying to create something that's sustainable and not something that's a flash in the pan. And the biggest fear I have or have had, I don't feel this way now, but I don't want to be the guy that says I had 600 units and now I have nothing. So how do we create that not to happen? That's really what a big fear of mine was whenever I started having, real estate problems, like not so much the real estate itself, but it was like, we're fighting with partners and stuff like that. And wondering if this is going to go like have a lawsuit involved in it. We're trying to tiptoe around it, trying to make everyone's happy at the same time. These are things that are happening. And I think to myself, I don't want to. It was like all this hard work is like it was nothing if you lose it. And that was really the main driver for me getting into the infinite banking concept is I wanted to create some kind of value in my life that is guaranteed liquidity that the banks love, and also a launching pad to grow out to 1,200 units.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So how about the book itself? So can you give me, I always like knowing what passed between your ears when you got into the Becoming Your Own Banker book for the first time. What did you like? What did you maybe not like? What did you not understand? Anything that you can recall from when you actually went through the book for the first time.
Yeah, so the book, in my opinion, is on point. I sometimes when I'm reading the book, I'm like, where are we going with this story? You're like, I'm reading this story, I'm like, all right, what's actually why are we talking about a grocery store? And I can tell you that before I started infinite banking, I was doing velocity banking, which is very similar. And the one thing that it jumped out at me was, and I know a lot of people don't like the illustrations, but the illustration of I think it was like the truck financing. And the flaw that I've had with velocity banking is that I would get a line of credit on my house and then I would sell the house and now the line of credit's gone. So it might have become liquid, but I no longer have access to that line of credit. And with infinite banking, it's like as long as we're running our finances in and out of it, this line of credit's always there and it's growing with my business because my reserve fund only needed to be $20,000 when I was in 2013, 14 timeframe. I didn't have a lot of, I didn't have a wife then. I didn't have kids. I didn't have very little real estate. So as my business grows, my banking system is going to need to grow as well. And that line of credit, what I have found with banks is they become more and more difficult uh, to receive and increase them. And you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop because when like COVID happened, I know Chase Bank and Wells Fargo, those they shut down a lot of lines of credits. They just shut them down. They said, okay, people aren't paying. We're shutting them down for now. You have to come back and ask for another line of credit later. So that is something I don't want to face, especially if you're running your finances through it, because just like, if we're all in growth phase, which, we don't know when the lights are going to shut off. So you want to have something that's sustainable, that's always there and protected as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you like the book. You
Okay, yeah,
wanted,
we're
like
sorry. I
some
go
of
on
us,
these
about some of
tangents.
the stories. Okay, where's it going? I can appreciate that part. But I'll tell you what part of the book you automatically made me think of, which because of your history, because of your perspective, you just said it, what it's like. Cost of acquisition. You're used to looking for opportunities, lining things up, connecting the dots, getting the financing for the thing, but it's a repetitious cycle, whether it's personally like you with your own, house and getting a line of credit and or doing it as a business, you're acquiring financing, right? And there's a cost to that, whether it's a time cost, money cost, all of it. It's all of it, right? Whereas when you establish a whole life policy, and you look at that as a business, paying premiums, leveraging cash values, going out and doing things with that money, you're increasing a death benefit. That right there, it's established for your whole life. And the more you use that product, the more efficient. So not only do you not have to reestablish, and pay a cost of acquisition for financing in the future, but it just gets more and more effective even over your whole life. So and it makes me think of like the headwind versus the tailwind. If you're having to always acquire, financing, you're dealing with a headwind. Okay, this is going to take a certain amount of time. This is going to take a certain amount of paperwork. This is going to take a certain amount of, talking
Yeah.
with partners or whoever. Whereas with the policies, like, I had somebody text me, brand new client, just got three policies on their three children. How do I do a policy loan? Well, you call the company, you verify, yep, I'm Jesse Durham from North Carolina. And then they'll have two questions when you want to take that policy loan. How
Yeah.
much of what's available do you want us to send to you? And do you want a check in the mail, wire transfer, EFT, like direct to your account on file? Like, which do you want? And that's it. It's a beautiful thing, is what I'm saying, right? Very, very different worlds when it comes to operating. Okay. How about, was there anything that you second guessed? Was there anything that you're like, is that true? Is that right?
So there's one thing I want to mention. It's that you said, and it's about the headwind or the tailwind.
Okay.
Okay. And this is a part of second guessing as well. So everybody always says, why would you borrow money from your policy? Right. And or why would you have to pay interest on your own money? And it's like, well, and I think the cleanest you have to, when you're talking about infinite banking concept, it's like if you don't have the exact way of things happening. So back to that, we have the cash value, which is the contract value of your life insurance. This is the collateral of the line of credit that the insurance is required to give you. So we have this cash value that is guaranteed to grow, and then we have this line of credit that's guaranteed to be you're allowed to borrow from it, and it's based on your current cash value. So it's two places. This is cash value, which is the asset. If you buy a house and you get a line of credit on the house, the house is still there. You borrow from the line of credit, you're not taking off a garage door, you're not taking windows off. The house is still there. That's the cash value. Now, the line of credit is your availability to capital. And now you have this asset, which is cash value, growing in the background. Nothing exciting. Real estate's not exciting growing if it's unleveraged. There's no leverage. They say 3 to 5% is the average that real estate grows. Some years grows a little more, some years less, but it's still an asset that's growing and it's guaranteed to grow because it's contractually guaranteed. Now you have this line of credit that's constantly available, and So then the other part of that scary part is for guys like me and many people I've talked to, they're afraid of debt. So we think about, okay, so I'm building out this cash value, and my current policy, I'll tell you, is I when I'm 70 years old, this cash value on the illustration says I'll have $5 million. So it's like, what am I going to do with $5 million of cash value life insurance? And how am I going to pay that back if I have it borrowed against? But that, what I'll tell you for me is my mind thinks linear. Like I don't think exponentially. And that's the unseen aspect of it. So we're talking about, uh, like right now, I have a $70,000 loan against my policy right now. That money's out working and it's being paid back into the policy. So if that $70,000 comes back to me in 3 to 5 years, which is my goal, is 3 to 5 years, it comes back in and it does that. And I'm constantly funding into my premiums and paying it up. What's going to happen is that $5 million cash value is going to have $20 million, 20 to $25 million of assets paying into that policy. So that $5 million becomes just a side note to the unseen, which the unseen is not in that illustration. It's going to be to the cash where I'm able to invest my capital to. The 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 so anyway, so $20 million worth of real estate should have a good cash flow that would be able to flow back into my policy and really by that time I would imagine I'm going to have more than one policy. I'm going to have to increase my banking demand because as I create more control in my life, it's not about arbitrage, it's about control. Although there is arbitrage, I would say the control in my life gives me more freedom to make better decisions and create more return in my unseen investments that I'm investing in. This isn't on the illustration. This is a liquidity that I'm creating in my system to be able to take advantage of these properties that these 5 deals that I have in front of me. I don't have enough capital to buy these 5 deals, but the goal is to create a system to be able to support to where I can really pick and choose those best deals with my capital.
Right. And as you do, your volume will
Yep.
increase
Yep.
of business, which then inherently means that the volume of banking business that you do, acquiring more policies, maximizing current policies, grows. And then velocity, I know that's a favorite word. You already said it,
Yep.
is a favorite
Yep.
word of yours. Velocity can pick up between now and that 70-year projected, age and value of cash value at that point. Who knows where that is going to be just with that one policy, and then let alone adding other policies along the way. I really liked your explanation, Glenn, about visuals help me. So when you said, if you take a bank loan because you establish a HELOC, it doesn't mean that you pull off the garage. So stuff like that helps me. That really
Yeah.
like, oh, that's so good how
Yeah.
he said that, right? So I
Yep.
really loved your explanation there. And the cash value, I would, using your example, say is, well, it's just today's appraised value
Yep.
of the real estate, whatever it's appraised at today. But then, of course, you can find that the policy's nature of what's leverageable over time is so much more efficient than, let's say, a bank line of credit who's going to allow you to leverage 70%, 80%, 90%, or like whatever, because as you use a whole life insurance policy, you get to the point to where you're paying $1 a premium is creating a certain amount of cash value in the beginning. Maybe it's 60%, maybe it's 90%, maybe it's 40%, whatever the number is. But over time, and the more that you do that, the more efficient that it gets, you get to where $1 paid in premium is more than it can be multiples of itself in the future, especially if you go out and talk about, yeah, when we get policies on ourselves, when we get policies on our children, we go and we look at what the guaranteed, and we could say guaranteed. We don't even have to include the dividends. Guaranteed side, well, $1 in premium can be 3, 4,
Yeah.
$5 in the future? Really cool. Really neat. All right. So those were some of the things that you got from the book was what I was asking about there. I want to leave this open to you. Tell me more about how you've used no, let me ask this. What did it take, Glenn, for you to go from actually vetting the concept, reading the book, to saying, "Yep, I'm going to pay significant premiums"? Like what boxes did you have to check? What did that look like for you to say, "I'm ready to implement this concept"?
I think the main thing, and this is probably not the answer that most people want to hear, but you have to put a value on the death benefit. Like we're talking about an like I like to look at it as I was looking at it as an investment, but I'm thinking about now I've changed my thinking to be this is a place where you store your capital and you protect your human life value and you built a bridge to your net worth in the future. So say if I have a large policy, whether it's 1.5 million or $7 million, that's a bridge to my net worth. My family's guaranteed to get it. So if something happens to me, they're taken care of. Now I need to fund this policy and grow it to be able to create my infrastructure, my safety, liquidity. We're building out a system to make sure that the 600 units that I own are stabilized, safe. That if there's a CapEx project that comes up, the one thing I can tell you is that being a deal junkie is I always want to buy a deal. And I think, okay, I'm going to make 20, 30% on this deal. But I can tell you inside of the parks that I own, the mobile home parks, they are there is 100% return value add deal things that I could do in those parks. So what I've done is I've said no longer do I need to buy any more real estate. I need to just make my parks worth the most they possibly can be. And that takes capital and we're like renovating mobile homes to sell them. We're replacing septic tanks. We're doing all these things to make it, or adding asphalt. We're adding, fencing, all these things. And with that, it creates more than this return that I'm trying to chase on new deals. So it's like we have to like shore up what we have, grow the asset, and then we can have a nice launching pad. Now I have my banking system, all my properties are cash flowing nicely. Now I have room to add on to it. But why keep growing when you're on a house of cards? Like you need to maintain and grow liquidity, which creates better sleep at night. And then also you're able to, become credible to banks as well. Like really the value is in the last 20% of revenue growth. You don't get the value until you finish the deal. If you don't finish the deal because you're spread thin over all these other deals, it's like you've wasted all this time buying these parks because you got to finish the deal because there's three or four vacant spots in the park. What's going to take to fill those up and, get the max value of the park? And then guess what? If something does happen to me, my wife will be able to easily sell these parks. But if they're still like under construction and all these things are happening, it's time to get them, it's time to get them right to where you're selling them for easy to manage parks. I feel like I go on tangents when you're asking me a question, and I'm just like, I don't even know what the question was you asked, but I'm just like getting into it.
I love it. I don't mind bringing us back, and I don't mind seeing where you go with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Both are great. People will let us know down in the comments what, maybe
Love
I
to hear it.
forgot to ask or what they'd like to hear more from you. So let us know. But what I wrote down from what you said, and well, I wrote three things down, but the quote that I'm accrediting you with is build a bridge to your future net worth. I love that. Again, it gives me a visual. I like stuff like that, but I get it too. So I wrote that down. I think that deserved to be mentioned again, what you
Yeah.
said. I like it. You also said something else that for me, I'd like to share. I hit a milestone this year. I'm going to record an episode particularly about it on my channel. And I think I might have already told you when we spoken before, Glenn, but this year, and it's a moving target, but human life value, it exists. An insurance company will only let you have a certain amount of insurance based on your net worth and your cash flow and your income and assets and all these things. But this was the first time that I have ever maximized my insurability. I got myself another policy less than a year ago that was the most. And I asked, I'm like, well, couldn't I get, just this much more? Like I asked for more. And I said, no, we got to cap you off right there. That's how much we can give you. And again, it'll be a moving target, but for me, it was a milestone of accomplishment from where I started in getting that first policy and using it to pay off my student loans at the time and the family car and those types of things to, oh no, I'm going to have my fourth child born this year. He's born now, but I'm saying back when I was getting the policy, I'm turning 40 years old. I'm going to have my fourth child born this year. I need to up my protection. So I've always had a value attributed to the death benefit that you mentioned when you were first answering my question about what it took you to write, checks, pay premium, get a policy. You said something about the death benefit. People need to value the death benefit more. I've always had a value for the death benefit, I believe. I believe that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. A death benefit does that for us. But this year I hit that personal milestone and I plan on hitting it again in the future as incomes improve and whatnot even more. There'll be a new limit that I'll have. And I want to bump up against that again. So I'm glad you brought up the the human life value. I love your wording around build a bridge to your future
Yeah.
net worth. That's so good. That's so good. You've mentioned it a couple of times. Put a definition to CapEx for everybody who's hearing that phraseology for the first time, please.
It would be capital expenditures, which is it's like improving. It's in the tax world, it's called it's improving. It's increasing the basis of the property, which turns into a depreciated a depreciating asset immediately when you buy it. So it's a great tax incentive to do it. But it's like for us, it would be like adding asphalt to a park. This asphalt is good for 10 years with cost seg studies and stuff like that. It's they can accelerate the depreciation if you add a roof, 10 to 15 years. I'm assuming this isn't tax advice. This is just kind of
Yeah,
off
yep.
the
Yep. You
off
said
the
stuff
top of my
about
head.
septic stuff. Well, even in your
Septic tanks.
explanation, you said cost seg, so you just can't help but use your vernacular,
Yeah.
which I can appreciate and I love. All right. That's what it took for you to decide to write a check, pay premium, get a policy. So I need to make a segue into, you professionally help people implement this concept, but I guess, is there anything else that I've left unasked or that you would share with folks that you think would be helpful just on the personal side of, yep, I'm going to implement this concept personally as Glenn down in
Yep.
Florida in my life before we talk about the professional stuff?
Yeah, I would say that focusing on building out your system is uh, the foundation. And I last month I met with about 22 business owners through like a networking events and stuff like that. And I got all their numbers and I met with them one on one. And I actually didn't, I don't know if I encouraged any of them to invest in real estate. And it's not that real estate isn't a good asset. I'm just saying that the business that you're in, which is the banking business or the actual business that you're running, is, in my opinion, more important than actually finding a passive, quote unquote, passive asset when you could, if you have like a garage door company, we're looking for how do you grow how do you lower the cost of supplies? How do you, or for roofing material, I have a business partner that likes to buy all the roofing material in December to show up on his taxes to where he has like 6 months of roofing material for paid for in December. You can deduct it in December. Like these are things that turn into high returning items that is, you're locking yourself in and growing your business. So if you're trying to get into business, how do you figure that out? Like The girl that was cutting my hair today, I thought to myself, this, I always think of how infinite banking concept could work for somebody. And there's going to be a day she just got started. She just got her license, which scared me, but that's like, oh God, don't mess it up. But so long story short, I'm like, how do you capitalize your system to open up your own barber shop? Or she was talking about wanting to have a baby. And I'm like, okay, what do you have to do to create the liquidity to have the the time you need with your kids, like not having your boss tell you when you have to come back. Like we're trying to create control and liquidity to have a launching pad to live your best life. And that's really what I think what we're trying to do here.
I love it. Yeah. You don't have to have a barber shop. You don't have to go out and get 600 doors. You don't have to
Yeah,
launch
no.
anything to immediately launch a business. You could you could just get into the financing of whatever it is you're already doing. You could just be somebody who cuts hair. You want to
Yep.
start a family. You drive
Yep.
cars. You're going to live
Yep.
somewhere. You're paying for the space where you're operating because you're probably in somebody else's salon or
Yep.
whatever, right? It's like you got to buy supplies. You got to get all your conditioners and all these different things. What if you just started financing what it is that you're already doing? It's such an
Exactly.
easy entry point, Glenn, and then you get to check the network box by getting death benefit, and then it's just going to get better guaranteed. I mean, so like what does that mean in the business world of, oh, we can have some financial guarantees 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years plus into the future? It's ridiculous. All right, good. I love that. I love that. All right, keep spreading the word, man. I don't care if they're cutting your hair or whatever. Try and help
Yeah.
people out. You're the financial
Captive
mentor.
audience.
Right, right.
A
That's
captive
exactly
audience.
right.
She's not going anywhere.
Exactly. Exactly. And she wants you to have a positive interaction as well anyway.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay. But at some point you did decide, hey, I'm gonna work with people. I'm gonna help people implement this concept. You're an authorized practitioner. So tell me more about what did that look like for you to go from, okay, I personally do this. I have a policy. I use my policy. I want to help other people.
So I'll tell you, I mean, really what it came down to is, I mean, I've raised over $15 million worth of capital. I have a lot of people come up to me asking if they can invest or what they should do. And I just found myself like, it's not that it's a bad investment. It's just that it's not the right investment for somebody that's just getting started or the first $50,000 that you have available. It's like I started finding out that like if you have or even the person and I could tell you that the investors we work with make a lot of money. They make over $1 million a year. Those are the guys that are looking for places to put their capital. And I would say that that's more of the play that we're trying to aim for. We're like, okay, so they've built out their business to where they have enough capital that it's just sitting idle. So it's like they have their business that's funding all their operations, and now they these guys are, they give me money to buy real estate with it. And but when it comes to the person that's just up and coming and the people that are, I believe those are the people that I didn't want, I was like, you're not helping yourself giving it to me, is what it came down to, because I believe that these people have a better calling and than what they're doing, so like what I would say is I want people to live their best life. And I believe it, a lot of people that I talk to is through their business and it's like the thing that they love to do. How do we grow that business? Like, how do we get you making $1 million a year to then you can give me some money, It's like then we can start talking about passive investing. But it's like until then, it's like let's get a high enough income to where this passive part can start to be built out. But you know, controlling the banking system in your life, car financing is the worst financing that you can get. It's terrible structure. And I believe that there's not an investment that's better than paying off your car. I'm not saying you have to buy the biggest car. You don't have to buy a Yukon Denali. I love the car, but I don't want to buy it because I have, 70, $80,000 cash value in my policy. That's not going to make me rich. What I'm saying is that if I'm going to buy a $30,000 car, which is a moderate type car, how are we financing these things in life? Is it going to eat up, just an example, a $30,000 car is a $600 payment. So where am I going to put $30,000 to make myself $600 guaranteed return, like income from? I don't know if there's a safe one to go to. And that's why I think the control aspect is so overlooked on the infinite banking concept. It's like we're like, yeah, there is arbitrage. I do believe there's arbitrage because we're able to pay down these loans faster because they become liquid faster. Like I'm not going to pay off a $30,000 car by putting $2,000 a month into it because that $600 payment's still there and it's sucking up my liquidity. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into my whole life policy and wait till my cash value accumulates to a healthy reserve to be able to take that 30,000 out and then pay off the car. So now I have the liquidity and the control of my system. So like when we have these 50,000, the people that want to invest 50,000, 100,000, it's like, okay, let's look at your current situation and make sure that your cash flow is good. Like your current banking system cash flow, what's flowing through your fingers, and then and okay, now we've gotten your personal balance sheet straight. What about your business balance sheet? Is there enough capital to grow your business? Is there enough to hit your goals that you want to hit in your business? Like those are the things that I like to look at. And it's not that I'm like advising them, I'm just more empowering people to like, let's look at these things to grow and keep your family safe at the same time.
I think it's hugely valuable to have somebody in your life to do what you just described. Somebody with an outside and you've got a unique perspective, obviously,
Yeah.
from implementing infinite banking personally and helping people professionally. But having an outside set of eyes, look at what somebody's doing and help dial things in, point things out, tweak things, share best practices, et cetera. It's so valuable. I just know that the further in my practice I get, annual, at least annual reviews with clients are more and more impactful, more and more meaningful. The longer that I work with folks, the deeper that we can go. And anyway, that's what's on my mind because of what you said right there. Oh man. You, all right. So you keep bringing up things that make me think about, I don't know if you realize what you just said, how controversial I believe that it is because you're so experienced, Glenn, in raising capital and doing business and real estate. But then you also just said, no, pay off your car. Um, it's a controversial topic, man. I'm just telling you, we fielded it on the round table
Well, tell
before.
me what's controversial about that.
Listen, man, here's my stance. All right, here's my stance. My personal stance is people should do what they want to do. That's my
Okay.
personal stance. My professional stance is also people should do what they want to do. Now, if somebody like you just did ask me, well, Jesse, what's controversial about that? Or Jesse, what's your perspective? Or Jesse, no, you just tell me, buddy. What do you think? Well, I'm going to tell you everything that you just said. I love the control. I love the confirmed guaranteed cash flow that's now going to be coming back to me that I can recycle in some other way as I see. I value everything that you just said, and that's my personal preference, right? But I'm just saying, within this infinite banking footprint on the interwebs, there are so many people who are in a different camp, and they're going to say, "But the math don't math, Glenn."
Okay,
Um,
but the thing is what I am saying is it's not about the arbitrage, it's about the control. And I know I'm like talking to somebody that agrees. It's the people, okay, if you listen, there's a Brent Kessler and Caleb Gillums.
Williams. Yep, Caleb Williams.
He he's in this interview with Brent Kessler. Brent Kessler says it on the interview. He's making $100,000 a month off interest payments from hard money loans. He does not care about the arbitrage. All because guess what? He knows the velocity is there. We're talking about velocity. So this, okay, so if you're going to have, we'll say whatever, it could be, I'm assuming interest rates are around 5 to 6% for cars right now. It could be 0% in my opinion, but in this scenario, let's say it's 5 or 6%. We don't even need to go into like the arbitrage acts, but this is where the arbitrage comes in. It's through actual actions over your actual like payment plan. Okay. So if I pay a normal $600 payment, I'm paying 5%. But if I have $600 going into my banking system in my IBC policy, but then I have an extra $2,000 cash flow, what I'm not going to take the $2,000 and pay off the loan because it's not going to improve my cash flow. I'm still going to have to pay $600 a month. But if I have my policy and my loan I've created in my policy, I'm going to pay that thing as quickly as I possibly can because I'm going to have liquidity as soon as possible. And that interest rate my effective interest rate that I would be paying on that is going to be a lot less than the the 5 or 6 because I'm trying to stuff as much capital into this policy as I possibly can to go do the next deal, go buy the next car, whatever it is. It's like we're just trying to, and that's where the control comes from. That $2,000, I've lost control if I pay off a car. I have to wait till I have $30,000 cash available in my bank account that's earning 0% interest to pay off this car loan, which that also it's like now I'm not getting rewarded by what we talk about through the infinite banking concept. So it's yeah, I don't even I think it's way more efficient. It's more efficient. You're focusing on control. The people that make I like to watch people that make $1 million a year and what they're focusing on is control and liquidity. And these are the things that I try to implement in my life. And that's what infinite banking concept also encourages through practicing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I'm not going to touch that topic. We're just going to have to be able to address that at the round table because you're already going to be showing up right now. I have had in my interview series, I have had Brent Kessler, who was the guy that I saw infinite banking from initially. Here in
Yeah.
South Carolina, where I'm at now in the office, not too far from here, saw him in 2015 do an hour and a half long presentation from the front of a room. And that's how I
Awesome.
saw infinite banking. And I have an interview with him in our interview series. I would encourage everybody to check that out. And I enjoy listening to Caleb Williams and others speak and get other people's perspectives. But I'm not going to touch it right now because I'm going to have you to a round table. But I can
I'm
appreciate
gonna look
everything
for
you're
that
saying.
podcast right after this because I can tell you anything Brent Kessler says, I just that guy is I like to follow people that are killing it, and that guy is killing it. And he's focused that his big focus is on control, liquidity, and obviously cash flow. And I think that's if you're following those guys, we're aiming towards the right direction. It's like, do I follow the person that's selling, anyways, I love
Yep.
listening to Brent. I'm gonna look for that podcast right after this.
Okay, cool. Well, then the next one would be Hannah Kessler. So
Yep.
I knew Hannah because I had Brent to my house. Hey, I want you to show this to friends, family members, like business partners. Come show them what you showed me. And I'm getting my house full of people to be able to see this, right? And Hannah's coming in and she's helping him set up the computer. She didn't even know me, didn't even know
Yeah.
me and things like that. I've had an interview with her on the channel as well. So I would encourage people to check that out.
Yep.
And that was how I got to see infinite banking. Okay. So let's leave people in for sure with what's the best way to contact you?
My favorite place is my podcast is Capitalizing Your Life podcast. I I talk pretty freely there, just like we're having a conversation right now. And I guess my email is Glenn at createtailwind.com.
Awesome. And I can put both those in the show notes. Let me say thanks again for having me on your podcast, having me on your show where we could talk infinite banking there as well. That was a good time. Anything else that you'd like to leave people with? And then I'm going to wrap us up with some rapid fire questions.
I think we've said everything we need to. I'm ready for some questions.
Fantastic, man. Okay. Tell me about a recent favorite podcast or book of yours.
Man, I mean, I'm kind of addicted to all the infinite banking concept uh, podcasts. So I love to follow Mary Jo, Wealth Warehouse, or Warehouse of Wealth guys, and I literally I follow them. I listen to yours as well. Um, Books. I've been I've been like knee deep in this infinite banking world. So I would say that becoming your own banker is a good one. Obviously, that's a good one. And then I just try to pick up whatever I can to follow what the guys that are killing it do. So um, my one of my mentor, Jim Oliver, he's got a new one coming out. He's killing it as well. He's bought in over 30 companies, and he knows lots of things to what not to do and what to do. And when it comes to infinite banking, he's just got it down for sure.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, as soon as I asked that question, I was like, wait a minute. He said something earlier about listening to an AI Charlie Munger version on YouTube. You're the
Uh,
first person that I've ever heard say anything like, oh, yeah, I'm listening to an AI version of so and so on. So I thought that was terribly interesting myself. How about
I
what's a favorite? You got something to say there, Ed?
I would say that I've listened to probably 10 of them, and I can't tell you, like, they are so good. If you just leave them in the background, let them play, I'm telling you, it's very, very good advice. All of it. It's like literally having like Charlie Munger in the room talking to you.
I got you. I got you. I don't know. I don't know if I can make myself do it, Glenn. This is me telling you something about myself, I guess. I don't know if I could do the AI version on principle. We'll see if it ever happens. But like I was listening to Jim Rohn earlier today. I love, he's one of my favorites. Tell me, how about what's one of your favorite pastimes or hobbies?
I mean, I can tell you, I'm not a very exciting person. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I got sober in 2010, and I love to work with other alcoholics to help them get to where they need to go. And those are things I like to do. I drink coffee and just try to have good conversations with people.
That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm drinking coffee and having a good conversation.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really commendable work right there, brother. Very cool
Yeah.
stuff. How about do you have a hidden talent that people may or may not know about?
Oh man, I don't know if I have any talents. I'm like I said, I used to beat myself up over not really do anything fun, but my hobby is personal finance. Like people talk about the sports and fantasy football. While everybody's watching that, I'm literally reading personal finance books and watching YouTubes of Jesse Durham, and these are I'm not I'm more of a I like to learn is what I do.
I love that. That's where I'm at. I could not care less about sports teams when we could be talking about legacy and family and meaningful stuff. That's where
Yep.
I'm at.
Yep.
How about what's one of the most impactful things somebody ever told you?
Uh, Really, it's one day at a time. That's all we got.
That right there is actionable. I like it. Sometimes I ask about what's a bad habit have you broken, but I'll underscore that. You mentioned
Yeah.
one. That's a good one. How about do you have a best healthy practice that you do implement?
Yeah, I love walking in the morning. Sometimes if you follow my podcast on YouTube, I'll have these morning rants about cash flow and ideas that come up. I like a lot of time when I have these people that I meet about infinite banking, there's some feedback of like why they don't want to do it or what's the issue, what's the thing. And I try to process it because I'm trying to meet them where they're at. And I love talking about that on my morning walks. I haven't been doing it as much. I've been so busy, but my goal is to do about 2 to 3 a week of these morning walks of talking about cash flow, business, and real estate. It's what I do.
Sunrise or sunset?
Oh man, I like to have coffee in the morning. I guess the sunrise would be great.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Mountains from
Sword,
Florida.
right? Well, see, but then I'm like, well, it could go either way. You never know. You never know. That's why you got to ask.
Yeah.
Sword or hammer?
Whew. I I think I'm more of a hammer guy. I bull in a china shop.
Okay. All right. Most interesting place you've ever visited?
I back to the mountains is Colorado. Estes Park. Don't have a lot of imagination. I just go to the same place regularly, and I love hiking and just seeing really how insignificant we really are when you go out into those mountains.
Yeah, I'm
You
from the
know?
foothills of Western North Carolina.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got, 6,000 foot tall, close to 7,000 foot tall
yeah,
mountains are our tallest this side of the Mississippi, but Colorado, very
yeah,
different. All right.
yeah.
And this question of what characteristic do you value most in someone else?
Integrity for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
You
All
can't
right.
fake it, and it's you can't. It's like even in an interview, you're trying to really decipher if this person has integrity while you talk to them.
Sure. I think, well, doesn't matter well, it does, but we should always be evaluating that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, oh yeah.
I'm so appreciative of the quality of people that I feel like I've had in my life for a while, but recently I feel like I've hit an upward growth trend even in my own journey because of infinite banking, because of people that I've met in our community, and I've been on this compounding curve when it comes to that. And I'm renewed in my appreciation of the people that I've been able to meet and get to know better, you know?
Yep, yep.
All right. Last question that I got from my boys over the dinner table one time. Would you rather be able to breathe underwater or fly?
I think flying would be pretty sweet because you can get, I mean, if to fly across Tampa, I'm told you can get there on a helicopter within 5 minutes, but it takes about 30 minutes to drive through Tampa. So if I could fly, that would be pretty sweet.
Look at you there. It's just like you even gave the practical answer. You didn't even say, "Oh yeah, I'd be able to fly to Colorado." You're like, "No, I could cut down my commute
Yeah,
from 30
yeah.
minutes to 5 minutes or less." Absolutely, this has been a pleasure for me to get to talk with Glenn. Make sure to check out his contact information below, including his podcast, where you can hear more from him. My name's Jesse Durham. You can find me at durhamtalents.com. It is my hope that you will live and leave a lasting legacy.